Good evening. The news gang is here, and who can stop reggae? The BBI musical show is on, and whose beat is Tanga Tanga dancing to? Also on the show tonight, an impeached governor, a Gazette notice in the night, a failed swearing in, an explanation from the judge, and a new date for the ceremony. And did I talk about the Waitiu petition in court? Who said 24 hours is a short time? We'll also have the kicker, the memo, the punchline, the take, and the angle. Ladies and gentlemen, a lot of suspensions here and there, but I think we'll start with something a bit more serious.
Joe, before you start something, I must say your intros make the show for me every single Thursday. I just have to say that.
Honestly speaking, thank you.
No one.
But
Honestly
speaking, but a very serious thing going on, Yvonne,
Right. Yeah.
coronavirus. You talked about it in your show a short while ago, but now there is a development. Kaikai, you were just picking something from Ethiopian Airlines.
Yes, we are picking news that Ethiopian Airlines has suspended all flights to China where an outbreak of coronavirus has killed at least 170 people. So this is quite a serious development, considering that Kenya Airways has insisted on having flights to China. Remember, there are flights in and out of Guangzhou by Kenya Airways, and those flights are still on for reasons that will be found questionable in the light of the new developments.
And actually, the Aviation Workers Union CAO today was saying that if this goes on, they'll actually withdraw their members from those flights. Yeah.
I mean, Ethiopian Airlines joins, BA, Lion Air, and Seoul Air, that's from South Korea, in doing this. This is what I find interesting about this coronavirus. So one, it's being called a novel virus. That means it has never before been identified in humans, which is why the suspected case in the country, they've had to take the samples to South Africa. So this is something that's very new, that's being dealt with in the world, and many who study epidemiology and are very interested in this particular virus, and in particular how it moves. What's interesting is it's spreading amongst people who've never visited China. That's what I think that's interesting, particularly those in Germany, Japan, Taiwan, and Vietnam. This is according to the New York Times. And also Kenya and its reaction to that. America, just on Wednesday morning, evacuated 201 passengers, and it was interesting. So they did screening in Beijing, and then they took them to Anchorage in Canada, where they have their CDC center, screened them again, and then screened them, of course, upon arrival, where they're being quarantined, checked for that. And there's many other countries that have joined the list that are taking their people out, but Kenya chooses a different one.
And Jamila, interesting that even Kenya's ambassador to China, Sarah Serem, speaking yesterday, well, she had cut short her holiday or her leave here, but she was saying, you know what, there's no cause for alarm. She's not even arrived in China. She hasn't seen what's going on there. But she was saying we're not in a hurry to get anyone out. We really don't need to worry about this, even though we are monitoring it.
In fact, we have that soundbite of Serem speaking on the coronavirus. I think, Monica, if we can listen to that soundbite, then we'll continue.
Kwangu ninaona ni afadhali Uchina waweze kudeal na hiyo ugonjwa, kwa sababu sijui kama tuko tayari. Kwa sababu hata hivyo tukiwaleta hivi ni ku-exposed wengi. Ningependa tuwalete tukijua kwamba wako out of hatharini yeyote. Na ninaona kwamba initiations or initiatives yenye China wamechukua imeaddress tayari. So ningependa tuachie wafanye hiyo kazi, na pia tusi expose watu wetu wa Kenya. Tujue kwamba Wuhan kwa sasa iko complete lockdown, na hiyo ni the best steps yenye imechukua, kwa sababu haingekuwa hivyo hiyo ugonjwa inge spread hata haraka zaidi. Na ninaona ni afadhali wawe complete hiyo lockdown mpaka tupate hiyo hakikisho.
The ambassador was speaking right here in Kenya, and
on her way out,
her way back. And we had seen that they had said there are about 80 Kenyans who are registered in one, those who are registered at the embassy, but there could be others who are not.
I hear, sorry, there are about 157
about 157 students
in Wuhan.
Okay, that's what we are hearing. But then this, you said this disease, it's a new strain and it's not familiar. Recent research that was released a few hours ago on an online journal called The Lancet about the coronavirus is that they did a research of 99 patients who were admitted at a hospital in Wuhan. And out of those 99, they did the research in a space of about 5 days. 11 of them passed away by the time the research was concluded, and about 31 were treated and discharged. The others are still admitted. And they found something very interesting in that the average age of those who had been infected was 55. And most of them were male. And they found out that most of those ones who had been affected had actually pre-existing chronic diseases. They talk about all this and they try to compare it with SARS. And they say one of the symptoms that those who are suffering from SARS, if you remember, a lot of people in China died from the SARS infection a few years back, was that they had upper respiratory tract symptoms such as running nose and a sore throat and sneezing. But those who are suffering from coronavirus don't have that. Those are not the symptoms that they have. In fact, you cannot clearly see someone who has it like a running nose and all that, just that now when they have the temperature. I think that's one thing that has really come out of this research that was just released today about those 99 patients who had been admitted.
Interesting. Francis, very worrying. I mean, viruses by their very nature are really not things to take chances with. They change without notice, they mutate. Sometimes these scientists don't even understand them, and especially this one, they are called the newer or novel viruses. No one really knows much about them.
Absolutely.
What happened to err on the side of caution?
You see, I hear them call it abundance of caution.
Yeah.
So this is I think where we ought to be, because Kenya is part of the global village. So I'm even keen on the number of fatalities in the last few days. It was 80 something, then
130 yesterday,
then 106, then 130, today,
and then today
170. So tomorrow the number increases. So it is a reason to get very, very, very worried, and I hope our government will take charge. I mean, ensure that anybody who is coming from China or any other country that could be related to that virus is totally screened, just to ensure that we remain safe, because it's not easy. It's not easy.
All right, shall we move to I think I should say Francis's county, because and he spent quite a few hours today trying to cover a swearing in that in the end did not happen. A very dramatic turn of events there. Francis, could you just start by running us through? I mean, last night we all go to sleep after we said Waititu's goose was cooking, and then we said it had cooked, and then after that
served hot.
Yeah, and we go to sleep, and then suddenly there is a gazette notice in the night. In the morning we wake up, there is a schedule for swearing in, and around 9, 10 the place is teeming with people dancing and that sort of thing. A dramatic thing, but I think we need to start from where it actually began, which is that announcement that in a sense appeared to seal the fate of Governor Waitiu. This is what the Speaker of the Senate said at the end of that vote.
Honorable Senators, the net effect of these votes is that pursuant to Article 181 of the Constitution, Section 33 of the County Government Act, and Standing Order 75 of the Senate Standing Orders, the Senate has resolved to remove from office by impeachment Honorable Ferdinand Ndung'u Waititu Babayao, the Governor of Kiambu County, and the Governor accordingly ceases to hold office. Honorable Senators, there being no other business, it's now time to adjourn the House. Order, Senators.
Yes, Francis. That is where it all began.
Yes.
Honesty.
And honestly speaking, it was a dramatic event yesterday. But even as we say many things, we must also talk about the high tempo politics around it.
And I want us to talk about today, then I will go to that politics that nobody can stop reggae in the corridors of the Senate.
And today, events at Kiambu County Government Headquarters reminded me of Dr. Joyce Nyairo, my lecturer teacher. I'm my literature lecturer at Moi University. There's a book she introduced us to called Waiting for Godot by Samuel Beckett. A very small book.
Yes.
And didn't people at the county headquarters wait? And they waited from 8 a.m.
including
to 10
yours truly,
to noon, to 1:30, then 2 p.m. And eventually all hope was lost at around 2:20. You see, last evening, we were privy to information that Chief Justice David Maraga called John Onyego, High Court judge, and instructed him to go to Kiambu County Government Headquarters and swear in Dr. James Nyoro after last evening's event at the Senate. And so when we got there, all preparations had been done, including the setup, the tents,
red carpet,
the seating arrangement, the red carpets, the high seats, you know, kiti ya mkubwa, one for the judge and one for the incoming governor, the many things.
And the dancing crowds to boot.
Sure, absolutely. And so when we got there at around 8 a.m., the people there were bubbling with excitement that finally Waitiu was being dispensed with. But what I also took very keen interest in, there were some murmurs of anxiety and some disbelief of sort. Some people were saying, hii kitu itafanyika kweli, ama kuna kitu italetwa. And eventually something gave. And what I also noticed were the interpretations that were being given by various lawyers, very senior lawyers. I mean, I saw Kipchumba Murkomen, I saw Mutula Kilonzo Jr., quite a number of them, Donald Kipkoril, quite a number of them talking about those legal interpretations. And therein, I suspected that this thing was not going to work.
And then eventually there was this a convoy of cars actually that came.
Yeah, do you know whose convoy it was?
Yes,
it was Solicitor General Ken Ogeto's convoy. Why? Because when the county secretary, the speaker, and a few government officials went to the Kiambu High Court judge chambers, we are told they found Judge Onyego there, and he told them, by the way, my reading of the Assumption to the Office of Governor Act of 2019 has some issues that you guys need to deal with before I can proceed. And he talked about the publication of the venue, time, and date of the swearing in. And he was also talking about section 16(1) of that act that talks about some modification in the event of the swearing in of a deputy governor
taking over
as governor in the circumstances such as Nyoro's, where a governor has been impeached. And so the county team was asked to seek an advisory opinion from the Attorney General. And so they sought it, and that advisory opinion was being brought. And this is the advisory opinion.
It was brought by the solicitor
himself. And so when they took it to Judge Onyego, he was still reluctant and told them there are a few things that you guys need to do.
Which have
been done this evening by Martin and Jogu.
Yes, Joe, I'm holding Justice Onyego's public notice, which by the way, as a newsroom, we had to scrutinize to make sure it is actually a legitimate document coming from Justice Onyego. But this is a very interesting short night, and you correctly said that cannot have been 24 hours.
It wasn't actually.
Yes,
it was 12.
The number of things that happened, and one of the things that obviously didn't happen overnight is the publication of the Assumption of Office of Governor Act number 4 of 2019. So for people to scramble in the morning as if, what does it say? Only in the morning, it's actually misleading. What has happened in my view here is there's been an aborted mission. An aborted mission in the sense that people have taken advantage of the lacuna in the law. The law is not very, very prescriptive on what happens as part of the impeachment process. If a governor is impeached, what follows next? Because all reference that we have now is to the law that applies to the swearing in of an elected governor. So advantage was taken in this, and that is why Justice Onyego found himself in Kiambu in the first place. If the interpretation and what you're showing us, Francis, was honest, it could have happened way before Justice Onyego goes to Kiambu. The plan was to swear in Nyoro. And now, there's something that needs to be brought out here. One, of course, we have spoken about the lacuna in the law. And two, the argument that Ferdinand Waitiu may make in court, which is to say that he can demonstrate malice in the way the process was being carried out because of the speed with which certain forces moved. I think, Joe, there is an opportunity and the possibility that the events of this morning and last night, including the very rushed publication of the Gazette notice, will be regretted.
But now there's a new one, Yvonne, and talking about all of these things, that if indeed this goes ahead, then Waitiu will actually be dealing with a whole new process of removing a governor, because the moment Nyoro takes the oath of office,
then his
it's a done deal. Now you have to probably get
his case in court about his impeachment may not be an issue that is relevant. Then he would then what? Start the process of removing a governor, which would mean he would find an MCA to put in a motion at the Kiambu County Assembly, have the County Assembly debate it and pass it, vote to impeach him. It goes to the Senate, where the Senate votes either to uphold or
impeach the new governor.
To impeach the new governor. These are some of the questions that he would be grappling with. And indeed, we were just discussing this a little earlier, is the sheer, first of all, speed. I mean, who knew government could be this efficient? I mean, by the time it was happening literally live with Jeff Koidange, it was gazetted. By morning, they'd already sought an advisory from the AG who said it is okay, go ahead and swear. So between that gazettement, the Chief Justice was awake, organized for Justice Onyego to be there in the morning. The AG gives an advisory and says it's okay. The Solicitor General is then sought again. He is personally taking the advisory to Kiambu County, and that is what you were talking about. It's a lot that can happen in 12 hours, but if there's ever a reason that nothing is done in this country, this should be the example that should be pointed to. If the government can work efficiently when it wants to. But I was going to just talk about what I imagine would be going through Waititu's mind right now. He is fighting battles on so many fronts. So he's got now the criminal case that is, ongoing, the abuse of office, the corruption charges that are against him. He's now lodged that impeachment case, challenging how the impeachment was done. If the swearing in happens tomorrow as is scheduled, there will be that. I mean, you can imagine just the amount of resources, mental, physical, just, on one man is clear.
Honestly speaking, Yvonne speaks about all the battles that Waitiu has to fight. And honestly speaking, when I was watching him in in Parliament yesterday, he was this lone figure.
But why don't we listen to the soundbite where he was honestly speaking, asking these people
for a fair hearing?
Yes.
That as a Kenyan, I should be given justice like anybody else. And that is why, honestly speaking, the Constitution guarantees everybody fair hearing and fair judgment. Mr. Speaker, sir, when the motion, which according to me did not meet the threshold, was brought to the Senate, they did also not meet the days that are required. They are supposed to bring the motion after 2 days. They brought that motion to the Senate after 4 days.
I was talking about how there he cut a lone figure akijitetea akisema the process haikufuatwa, people unfair to him, even went as far as dissociating himself from his family, akisema he has a lot of relatives, kila mtu abebe mzigo wake, he should be accountable for what he had done and his family should be accountable for what they had done. And it's a contrast to when he was this popular politician, alikuwa anaenda kupigana, anarusha mawe. I think there was a story that ran in the bulletin showing him literally fighting and slapping somebody, and he was different from the kawaida politician politicians were used to. He was ready to get his hands dirty. He was ready kuingia katikati ya watu pale anaandamana na wao, and he was very popular. Alipatiwa kura nyingi na watu wa Kinagashuri hapo Kiambu, but now amebakia peke yake, and he's saying he's fighting all these battles on all the fronts. In fact, leo he was in court. Other than trying to stop the swearing in of Nyoro as governor, he was also in court about his own case, and he was trying to stop two witnesses to have some of the witnesses. That's two of them, a lady who's, I think, the procurement officer and the chief officer of finance.
The one he was trying to stop, Faith Njeri Harrison, is a star witness. Why? Because she was the chief officer finance. And you remember there's a time she addressed a news conference in Thika, Thika or Ruiru, and said very many things about how allegedly the governor was pushing her to make some payments and so on and so forth. So if she was to testify against him, it would be very, very difficult for him.
Yet the governor's argument was that she should be the one answering all these questions that Waitiu is being asked. But let's talk about the politics, ladies and gentlemen. Yesterday, it struck me that after the vote, all these senators, you know, are coming all bubbly in the corridors, and I could hear people like like I senator talking about nobody can stop reggae, and you could see them beaming with smiles in a way that
won an election.
Yes, it was in a way to suggest that this was not just an ordinary procedural thing that they did in the House, but that this was some kind of a victory of a certain sort, and it wasn't lost on me that nobody can stop reggae is no longer just an idle song by Lucky Dube.
Joe, having mentioned me adversely in your question, I'll get the right to go first. And yes, politics was at play last night, because let it be known, this is project number 2 of the handshake BBI politics. Project number 1 of BBI handshake was the Kibra by-election. That is why this thing took a political turn. Immediately it went to the House. Let's remember, and maybe Francis can take us through that at some in a moment, the selection of a committee that was supposed, normally impeachment would be heard by a select committee, but the House decided to take it to the plenary, convert itself into a committee that will hear the impeachment. This was because of politics, because they're looking for numbers. This politics, pitching the handshake BBI, Uhuru Kenyatta, Raila Odinga versus Tanga William Ruto side. And those are the battle lines. I don't know whether we have the sound bites. If you can just quickly see what that exchange between Orengo and Murkomen on some duck.
When it walks like a duck, looks like a duck, quacks like a duck, it is a duck. I beg to reply.
When it walks like a duck, quacks like a duck, and looks like a duck, it is a duck. Did you realize at the end of his presentation, he did not move? Just that word. Just that word. So the duck...
Oh, I think he moved. I heard him.
No, he didn't move.
He did. He moved. He moved.
So there you are.
Quack, quack.
There you are, ladies and gentlemen. An admission right there that there is a duck in the house. And the duck may not be the case for Kiambu, but the politics between the two sides.
But did you see, Linus, there was a tweet by Senator Sakaja
yes.
That was also quite intriguing, because she seems to be saying that 6 of the senators who are in the committee that they rejected voted to save Waitiu. So there was also another dimension, even when they were starting this thing, that one of the reasons why they refused that the committee thing is because they had seen the politics from Gashuri.
From the angle of the duck.
Gashuri is usually saying wameonea 18. They actually had said that they had noticed this was going to be a walkover in the committee, and it would have been difficult. So not the people about Kiambu, but politics
all around.
National politics. Yes.
Make no mistake. I mean, let's not say
your goose is cooked as Kiambu.
Yeah, let's not say too many things.
Or the duck is cooked.
The duck is cooked.
Because notwithstanding the serious integrity issues raised against Waitiu, notwithstanding the very serious issues relating to audit and use of public resources in the county. Those aside, at the heart of this impeachment was politics, nothing else but politics. And I want to draw your attention to the voting patterns yesterday. 28-12, 27-12, and 28-11. Okay?
On each of the three.
On those three allegations,
counts,
or those three counts that the governor was facing. Out of the 11 members who were in the previous committee that was proposed by Senator Kipchumba Murkomen, the majority leader, of course with the assistance of minority leader James Orengo, because the majority party brings in 6 members and the minority brings in 5 members. It is instructive to note that all the 6 senators who were proposed to be members of that committee voted to save Waitiu yesterday, from the majority team. But also, I draw your attention to last week's vote when senators were making a decision on whether this matter will be heard by a committee or by the plenary. The voting patterns were 28-16. And it is also important to note that some of the members of the minority team who had been proposed to be members of the committee voted against the committee and voted for the plenary, including Senator Malala, who was to chair that committee.
With Susan Kihika.
Susan Kihika was to be the vice chair. What am I saying? You see, whipping and lobbying at the Senate. And there's also a fundamental question that there was an attempt to answer. Does William Ruto control Parliament? It was an important question that both sides were trying to answer. And the voting lines were also pro-handshake, if you may look at it that way, and anti-handshake, if you may like what the pronouncement was, or how, you know, the perception looked like. Like more or less like an Uhuru-Raila coalition versus William Ruto. And so, leave alone all the issues against Waitiu, even the haste at which some of these things have been done clearly tells you there's something.
It was altered. And Jamila,
also, look at, I wanted to mention something very small about this advisory opinion that came from the Attorney General, of course, who I doubt would have given any other advice except that which he did because of the prevailing political circumstances. He was saying, I quote paragraph number 6, in our view, the framework of the committee, that assumption to the Office of Governor Committee, as contemplated in Assumption to the Office of Governor Act of 2019, contemplates a post-election transition from one governor to the next, and not a situation like the present one where a deputy governor is assuming the office of the county governor upon the same falling vacant following an impeachment. So basically he was saying, wachana na hizo story mingi, as is now, ni sawa.
Swear him in.
Swear him in. And by swearing him in, it would have attracted the kind of a situation that Yvonne was raising. But would the High Court, on the other hand, overturn such a proposal or such an eventuality and say, you may have been sworn in, but the process leading to your swearing in was faulty, so even the outcome is also faulty.
It was interesting that the judge,
all the way.
The judge that Waitiu went to today did not stop the swearing in or anything like that. He just postponed it.
And did not stay the execution of the Senate decision.
Monday inter-party hearing itakuwa. But what is interesting is we look at precedent. There are 5 other governors who survived impeachment motions on technicality and lack of sufficient evidence, and all those 5 governors actually were not, it wasn't the whole house, the Senate House, it was committees. It was Governor Mwangi wa area of Murang'a, Governor Paul Chepkonyi of my county Kericho, Granton Samboja of Taita Taveta, and the late Nerito Gachagua of Nyeri. Of course, the one who went through the process na akashinda kotini mara kadhaa was the governor of Embu, Martin Wambora. And something else that was interesting was that in one instance, Senator Moses Wetangula actually voted Akim support Waitiu, and I think that also was on social media, people asking questions, so where does he belong to, where does he fall?
We need to take a break. When we come back, we'll touch a little bit on that, plus the politics of it, because remember, if you look at the voting pattern last night, it tells you something. It's a pattern that we can very easily draw parallels between that and what we've seen with Tanga Tanga, Kieleweke, BBI, handshake, all of these things. And we can discuss that after the break, but let's take this short pause. We'll be back with the news gang.
Honestly speaking.